Deep inside, there's a version of you that's exhausted from waiting, bargaining, and accepting less than you deserve. Not later, not when things get easier, right now. Because here's what you've been avoiding. You're not trapped. You've just stopped holding yourself accountable. You're not lost. You're just paying attention to the wrong things. Every morning you wake up, you cast a vote. Do you grow stronger today or let yourself slip backward? There's no middle ground. While you check notifications, hesitate, and wait for a sign, someone else is being forged. Either forged into something unshakable through action or softened by endless comfort. And most people never admit this. You already know what's broken, the routines you skip, the justifications you make, the loops you run every single day. This isn't about getting pumped up. It's about taking the reins. Mastery over your thoughts, mastery over your impulses, mastery over your choices. The day you stop negotiating with your own weakness, everything shifts. Because the instant you refuse to cut deals with laziness, your entire trajectory changes. Your brain runs the show for every future version of you, and whether you acknowledge it or not, it's being wired 24 hours a day. The only real question, are you the one holding the keyboard, or are you letting the noise of the world type for you? Most people never pause to ask that. They just wake, scroll, react, envy, consume garbage, then act surprised when anxiety, confusion, and emptiness show up. But none of this is random. A fragile mind isn't bad luck. It's the product of constant neglect. A resilient mind isn't a gift you're born with. It's built, brick by brick, through hard-won self-control. Each thought you let linger starts to carve your identity. Each belief you repeat becomes an order your brain follows without question. And over months and years, those orders manufacture your entire reality. That's why training your mind isn't optional. It's the bedrock for everything else. You can map out goals and recognize your potential. But if your thinking is chaotic, emotional, and jumpy, you'll trip over your own feet before you ever cross a finish line. The ancient Stoics grasped something most modern people miss. They didn't waste energy trying to bend the world. Instead, they taught themselves to control the lens they saw it through. Because once you realize that your thoughts aren't hard facts, just interpretations, you unlock real power. You start to see that most of your suffering doesn't come from what happened, but from the story you've been telling yourself about it. The exact same setback that destroys one person builds another into something greater. The difference isn't the event, it's the mind processing it. This is where the average person loses the plot. They buy into every random thought that floats through their head. They never challenge it, never filter it, never push back. If the inner voice whispers, "You're not enough," they bow to it. If the voice says, "Just start tomorrow," they obey. If the voice insists, "This is too hard," they freeze. Slowly, without noticing, they become a puppet to their own thinking. But a trained mind flips the script. It watches thoughts instead of obeying them. It asks sharp questions. Is this belief useful? Is it actually true? Does it move me forward or hold me back? And if the answer is no, it replaces the thought, not with fake sunshine, but with cold precision. Stop asking why this is happening to you. Start asking what it's here to teach you. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," you shift to, "I haven't mastered this yet." This tiny adjustment might seem small, but repeated daily, it rewires your entire operating system, because your life will always lean in the direction of your most frequent thoughts. If your head is packed with doubt, fear, and distraction, your actions will mirror that mess. But if your mind is sharpened to focus, adapt, and stay cool under heat, you'll start making decisions that create unstoppable momentum instead of constant self-sabotage. Training your mind every day means being ruthless about what you let in, what you dwell on, and what you refuse to tolerate. It means guarding your attention like a hawk because it matters. Every time you hand your focus to something useless, you're dulling your ability to concentrate. Every time you compare yourself to strangers online, you're watering seeds of insecurity. Every time you overthink instead of stepping forward, you're rehearsing hesitation. Over time, these tiny patterns become your automatic setting. That's why you need to become a gatekeeper for your mental space. Turn down the volume on the noise. Cut the digital clutter. Stop feeding your brain empty calories. Replace them with material that challenges you, educates you, and forces you to stretch. Another piece of mental mastery is learning to sit inside discomfort without running away. Most people sprint for a distraction the second things get awkward or painful, but growth doesn't live in the escape, it lives in the awareness. When you practice sitting still, reflecting, watching your own impulses without acting, you start to understand your own wiring. You notice what sets you off, what drains you, and what actually strengthens you. And once you see the pattern clearly, you can change it. This is where genuine control begins. Not by forcing happy thoughts, but by becoming conscious enough to choose your mental direction instead of being dragged by it. Each morning, remind yourself of one raw truth. You can't steer every external event, but you can steer how you frame it. That single insight is enough to transform your life if you practice it every day. Because when your mind becomes steady, your moves become sharp. When your thoughts are clean, your decisions get stronger. And when your inner world is locked in, no outside storm can shatter you. This is your core engine. This is where everything begins. Master your mind, and you stop being a passenger in your own story. You take the wheel. Your emotions carry immense power, but only when you're the one driving them. The second your emotions start driving you, even a small annoyance can derail your day, poison your focus, and erase your progress. Most people never realize this. They blame their situation, the people around them, or the pressure they're under. But the real enemy is how fast they lose control of their inner state. They snap instantly. They take every comment to heart. They let anger, fear, and frustration call the shots. Then they wonder why life feels like a never-ending crisis. Here's the simple truth. You don't fail because life is brutal. You fail because you respond without thinking. And every time you react blindly, you hand over your influence. The Stoics understood emotions aren't enemies, but they must be handled with skill. You're not supposed to kill anger, fear, or sadness. You're supposed to understand them, watch them, and channel them. Because emotions, when mastered, become tools. When ignored or unleashed, they become shackles. Most people are chained by their feelings. If they feel tired, they quit. If they feel scared, they hide. If they feel angry, they explode. Their actions are whatever the mood of the moment dictates. That makes them predictable, fragile, and easy to break under stress. But a trained individual moves differently. They feel everything, but nothing controls them. One of the most powerful truths you'll ever absorb, it's not the event that disturbs you, but your interpretation of it. Two humans can live through the same disaster. One crumbles, the other adapts and grows. The difference isn't reality, it's their perception. Most of your emotional pain is manufactured inside your skull before it ever touches the real world. You imagine the worst. You assume hidden motives. You replay conversations for hours, and by doing this, you turn a spark into a wildfire. That's why mastering emotions starts with awareness. The moment you feel a reaction rising, hit pause. Create space between what happened and how you respond. That space is where your power lives. When anger flares up, don't swallow it or spray it everywhere. Study it. Ask yourself what triggered it, what it's telling you, and how you could use it. Anger can fuel intense discipline if you direct it toward action. It can give you clarity to set firm boundaries. But if anger runs the show, it will burn your relationships, your opportunities, and your peace to the ground. Same goes for fear. Fear isn't a stop sign. It's a yellow light, a signal to prepare. It shows you where you're shaky, where you lack skill, and where growth is waiting. If you run from fear, you stay small. If you walk toward it with open eyes, it becomes one of your greatest teachers. Even jealousy, something most people are embarrassed to admit, can be fuel. Instead of resenting someone else's success, use envy as a mirror. It reveals what you actually want, and that awareness can drive you to level up. Working on your emotions every single day means teaching yourself to respond, not just react. It means slowing down your impulses, especially in tense moments. When someone disrespects you, your instinct might be to fire back, protect your ego, prove you're right. But strength isn't about instant retaliation, it's about a measured response. Sometimes the most powerful move is silence. Sometimes it's walking away. Sometimes it's choosing not to play the game at all. Because not everything is worth your energy, and not every battle needs a winner. The more selective you become with your reactions, the more control you reclaim. Another pillar of emotional mastery: stop taking things personally. Most of the time, other people are acting from their own wounds, their own fears, their own limited view. But when you absorb everything like a sponge, you carry weight that was never yours to hold. You turn minor moments into heavy burdens. Over time, that exhausts your mind and body. Learning to detach doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you know what's yours to influence and what isn't. You stop swallowing unnecessary negativity, and you protect your inner climate. At the end of each day, reflect on how you handled your feelings, not with harsh judgment, but with honest curiosity. Where did you lose your footing? Where did you stay calm? Where can you be sharper tomorrow? Because emotional mastery isn't built in one heroic moment. It's built in hundreds of small decisions where you choose awareness over impulse. Every time you choose control, you get tougher. Pause before you react. That pause is where your power lives. Every time you stay calm while others lose their minds, you create an advantage that most people will never possess. This is emotional strength, not loud, not flashy, but undeniable. And once you develop it, nothing outside you will dictate what happens inside you. Discipline is the machinery that turns intentions into results. Without it, everything else falls apart. You can have a clear head, steady emotions, and a powerful vision. But if you can't execute day after day, none of it matters. This is where most people crash. Not because they're clueless about what to do, but because they don't do it when it's uncomfortable. They wait until they feel ready. They wait for motivation to strike. They wait for the perfect circumstances. And while they wait, nothing changes. Discipline kills the waiting game. It replaces feelings with movement, hesitation with action, and excuses with proof. It's not about how you feel. It's about what you do despite how you feel. Every single day, your brain will try to negotiate a better deal. It will offer comfort dressed as logic. Just 5 more minutes. One more video. You can start Monday. You deserve a break. That voice sounds so reasonable, but it's the voice that quietly erodes your future. And if you listen to it enough, it becomes your default setting. That's why discipline isn't just about doing hard things. It's about refusing to bargain with weakness. The second you start arguing with yourself about whether to act, you've already lost precious time. Strong individuals don't debate that voice. They override it with motion. They move before the excuses can take root. Discipline is also a form of self-respect. Every time you set a target and then bail, you send a message to yourself that your own word is worthless. Over time, your mind stops believing you. You say you'll get up early, but you hit snooze. You say you'll train, but you skip. You say you'll focus, but you drift. And slowly your confidence leaks away, not because you lack talent, but because you lack follow-through. On the flip side, every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you build trust. You prove that your word has weight, that your decisions mean something, that you can count on yourself. That internal trust is what makes you dangerous in the best possible way. Self-control is discipline in the moment. It's what happens when temptation knocks, when distractions glow, when emotions run high, and you still choose what's right over what's easy. It's easy to stay focused when nothing is pulling at you, but real control gets tested when everything is screaming for your attention. When your phone buzzes, when comfort is close, when nobody is watching, that's where your real standard is exposed. Most people fail in private long before they fail in public. They give in to small impulses, they chase short-term pleasure and sacrifice long-term gain for immediate relief. But those who build self-control understand something crucial. Every small decision compounds. Every time you say no to distraction, you sharpen your focus. Every time you delay a reward, you increase your strength. Every time you choose effort over ease, you inch closer to the person you're trying to become. You don't need an extreme routine to build discipline. You need consistency. Start with one non-negotiable act each day and finish it no matter what. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to be consistent. Wake up when you said you would. Complete what you started. Earn your rest before you take it. These simple actions might not look heroic in the moment, but repeated daily, they construct a system that can't be broken. Because discipline isn't built in intensity. It's built in repetition. The more you act in alignment with your commitments, the less you rely on motivation. Eventually, you don't have to force it. It becomes who you are. Self-control also means removing unnecessary traps. If you constantly surround yourself with distractions, you're making discipline harder than it needs to be. Design your environment for success. Cut down the noise. Limit access to things that weaken your focus. Create conditions where the right action is also the easy action. That's not weakness. That's strategy. Because even a strong mind can get worn down by constant temptation. But when you control your environment, you reduce friction and increase consistency. There will be days when you feel like doing absolutely nothing. Days when your energy is in the basement, when progress feels invisible, when doubt starts whispering. Those are the days that matter most. Because anyone can take action when they feel great. But only a disciplined person acts when they feel terrible. That's where identity is forged. Not in the easy moments, but in the resistance. Every time you act despite resistance, you reinforce the version of yourself that follows through. And over time, that version takes over. In the end, discipline and self-control give you something motivation never can: reliability. You become someone who does what they say, who shows up regardless of mood, who executes regardless of circumstance. And when you reach that point, progress is no longer a gamble. It becomes inevitable, because success isn't about doing something amazing once. It's about doing the right things repeatedly without lowering your own bar. This is your execution engine. This is where potential becomes reality, Without direction, discipline becomes empty grinding. You can push hard, stay consistent, build habits. But if you don't know where you're headed, all that effort turns into motion without a destination. This is the trap most people fall into. They stay busy, they work hard, yet they feel stuck because their actions aren't tied to a clear purpose. They wake up, go through the motions, chase little rewards, and call it productivity, but underneath they feel disconnected. That feeling isn't laziness, it's a lack of direction, because when you know why you're doing something, you don't need a constant pump-up speech. Purpose pulls you forward when energy is low, when results are slow, when things get hard. Purpose isn't about chasing trophies, it's about having a reason to move. Most people confuse purpose with outcomes, money, status, applause, but those are results, not roots. Real purpose is internal. It's the standard you choose to live by, the kind of person you decide to become, the impact you want to leave behind. When your actions align with that inner compass, everything starts to click. You stop wasting hours on nonsense. You stop chasing distractions. You start focusing on what actually moves the needle. But without purpose, you drift, and drifting always leads back to comfort, because comfort demands no direction. The Stoics believed a meaningful life comes from living in alignment with reason and duty. Plainly, do what you're meant to do, not just what feels pleasant right now. That's where clarity is born. You don't need your whole life mapped out. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need every step visible. What you need is one clear next move that matches who you want to become. Most people stay frozen because they overthink the future. They wait for everything to make sense before they take a step. But clarity doesn't arrive before action. It arrives through action. The more you move, the clearer the path gets. The more you hesitate, the foggier everything becomes. Working on your purpose every day means constantly checking your direction. Ask yourself, is what I'm doing today moving me forward or just keeping me busy? Is this aligned with my values, or am I just following what's easy or familiar? These questions force intentionality. Because without awareness, you can spend years climbing a ladder only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall. Purpose protects you from that mistake. It filters your decisions. It helps you say no to what doesn't matter, so you can say yes to what does. Purpose is also shaped by struggle. Most people run from discomfort, but discomfort is where clarity gets chiseled. The challenges you face, the obstacles you push through, the things that test your limits, those experiences reveal what you truly care about. They show you what you're willing to fight for and what you're capable of becoming. That's why avoiding difficulty keeps you lost. It delays the process that would actually give you direction. But when you face challenges head-on, you start to understand yourself at a deeper level. And from that understanding, purpose emerges. Another important truth, purpose isn't something you find once and then keep forever. It's something you build and refine over time. As you grow, your direction gets clearer, your standards get higher, your focus gets sharper. What matters to you today may evolve tomorrow. That's not a problem, that's progress. The key is to stay committed to growth, not to a fixed image of who you think you should be. Because purpose isn't about being perfect, it's about being aligned. Every day, do something that pulls you closer to your direction. It doesn't have to be huge, it just has to be real. Read something that expands your mind, build something that improves your future, create something that reflects your potential, help in a way that adds value to others. These actions, repeated daily, create momentum, and momentum creates clarity. The more you act with intention, the less lost you feel. Each morning, ask yourself one simple question: what's one thing I can do today that matches who I want to become? Then do it without negotiation. Over time, these small aligned actions compound into a life that feels designed, not accidental, because a person with direction can handle pressure, survive setbacks, and stay focused while others lose their way. Purpose gives weight to effort and structure to discipline. This is your guidance system. It keeps you from drifting. It keeps you from wasting your energy. It turns your effort into real progress. When you have direction, you don't need to chase everything. You just need to stay aligned. And when you stay aligned long enough, you don't just move forward. You become someone who knows exactly where they're going. Patience and silence are two of the most underestimated forces on earth because they don't look powerful on the surface, but they determine whether you last long enough to win. In a world hooked on speed, reaction, and constant noise, most people have forgotten how to wait, how to observe, and how to hold their ground without needing instant results or applause. They want progress now, recognition now, answers now. And when those things don't appear, they start doubting themselves or they quit. But here's the reality: anything that matters takes time, and if you don't have the patience to stay consistent through slow seasons, you'll never reach anything built with depth. Patience isn't passivity. It's controlled persistence. It's continuing to act with purpose even when the results are still invisible, even when nobody's watching, even when it feels like nothing is moving. Most people mistake waiting for wasting time, but they fail to see that growth is happening below the surface long before it breaks into view. Just because you can't see the payoff doesn't mean you aren't building it. Every repetition, every disciplined choice, every moment you refuse to quit is strengthening something inside you. But impatience destroys that process. It makes you chase shortcuts, compare your timeline to strangers, and abandon your path too early. The Stoic mindset rejects that frantic urgency. It focuses on effort over outcome, consistency over speed, mastery over quick rewards. Because when you rush, you make sloppy decisions. When you force results, you lose perspective. But when you stay patient, you let your actions compound. And over time, that compounding becomes unstoppable progress. Silence works alongside patience as a shield and a source of control. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not every situation needs your voice. Most people talk too much, explain too much, and react too quickly because they feel the need to defend themselves, to be understood, or to prove their worth. But that need is often driven by ego, not strength. True strength is the ability to stay silent when your emotions want to scream, to observe while others are losing their minds, and to choose your words carefully instead of spraying them everywhere. Silence is not weakness, it's discipline. It's knowing your energy is limited and refusing to spend it on things that don't matter. When you learn to stay silent, you gain clarity. You start seeing situations more clearly because you're not tangled in instant reactions. You listen more, you observe more, you understand more. This gives you an edge that most people lack because while they're busy reacting, you're analyzing. While they're trying to prove themselves, you're improving yourself. Silence also protects your momentum. The more you talk about what you're going to do, the more you release the pressure that should be fueling your action. You get a small taste of satisfaction without actually doing the work. But when you stay silent, you keep that fire internal, and it pushes you to execute instead of announce. Patience and silence together build emotional stability. They keep you grounded when things go wrong, focused when progress is slow, and out of unnecessary conflict that drains your battery. When someone provokes you, patience stops you from snapping back instantly. And silence stops you from making things worse. When life delays your plans, patience reminds you that real growth takes time, and silence helps you skip the complaining and the need for outside validation. This combo keeps your mind clear and your actions sharp. Another key part of inner strength is trusting the process without needing constant reassurance. Most people hunt for signs that they're on the right track. They want feedback, approval, or visible trophies to confirm their effort. But if your confidence depends on external validation, your stability will always be fragile. Patience teaches you to trust your work even when the payoff is hidden. Silence teaches you to move without needing a round of applause. Together, they build a level of independence that makes you very hard to shake. Every day you'll be tested in small ways. You'll feel the urge to fire back, to defend yourself, to prove a point, to rush a result, or to quit because progress is crawling. These are the moments where patience and silence must be practiced. Not perfectly, but consistently. Pause before you fire off a response. Give yourself time before making big decisions. Let emotions settle before speaking. And most importantly, keep working even when it feels like you're standing still, because that's exactly when most people step off the track. And that's exactly where you gain an edge. Over the long run, patience ensures you don't crack under pressure. Silence ensures you don't burn your energy on nonsense. Together, they create a calm, grounded presence that's hard to disturb. You become someone who doesn't rush, doesn't overreact, and doesn't beg for attention. You move with intention, you speak with purpose, you act with consistency. This is genuine inner strength, not loud, not dramatic, but quietly unstoppable. And once you develop it, you realize you don't need to chase outcomes, argue with fools, or prove anything to anyone. You just keep building, quietly, steadily, relentlessly, until your results speak for themselves. The quality of your life is determined by your state of mind, not your external situation. Most people spend their whole existence trying to rearrange the outside world so they can feel better on the inside. But that approach keeps them running in circles. They believe peace will arrive when they have more money, more praise, fewer problems, or better circumstances. But here's the hard truth. If your mind is untrained, even a perfect life won't bring peace. And if your mind is disciplined, even a hard life won't steal it. That's where gratitude and inner peace come in. They're not soft, fluffy ideas. They're mental anchors that keep you steady when everything around you is shaking. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present, and that single shift changes how you experience your days. Most people operate from a constant sense of lack. They obsess over what they don't have, what they haven't achieved, what others are doing better. This mindset creates endless dissatisfaction. No matter how much they gain, it never feels like enough because their attention is always aimed at the empty spaces. But when you practice gratitude, you interrupt that loop. You start noticing what's already working, what you've already survived, and what's already within your control. This doesn't mean you stop striving. It means you stop operating from desperation. You move forward from a place of strength, not shortage. Gratitude also protects you from comparison, which is one of the fastest ways to lose your peace. When you constantly measure yourself against others, you warp your own progress. You ignore how far you've come and hyper-focus on how far you have left to go. That creates pressure, insecurity, and unnecessary stress. But when you ground yourself in gratitude, you return to your own path. You recognize that your journey is different, your timing is different, and your growth is yours to build. That awareness removes the urge to compete in ways that don't serve you. It lets you stay focused on your own development without being distracted by what everyone else is doing. Inner peace is what allows you to stay stable regardless of what's happening externally. It's not the absence of problems, it's the ability to stay centered in the middle of them. Most people lose their peace because they react to everything. Every opinion, every delay, every surprise yanks them in a different direction. Their mental state is constantly changing because it's tied to external events. But when you develop inner peace, you break that chain. You stop reacting to everything and start choosing what deserves your attention. You understand that not every situation needs your emotional energy. Building inner peace takes daily discipline. It means setting boundaries with what you let into your head. Not every piece of information deserves your focus. Not every conversation deserves your time. Not every opinion needs a response. When you get selective about what you engage with, you cut down the noise. That creates space for clarity. It also means learning to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. Most people seek constant noise to avoid facing their own thoughts. But that avoidance keeps them unsettled. Peace isn't found in distraction. It's found in awareness. When you can sit quietly, watch your thoughts, and not get swept away by them, you develop a level of control that most people never approach. Another important piece of inner peace is acceptance. There are things you can control and things you can't. Most stress comes from trying to grip what's outside your reach. You replay situations, you wish things were different, you resist reality, and that resistance creates tension. But when you accept what is, without giving up your responsibility to change what you can, you release that tension. Acceptance isn't weakness, it's clarity. It lets you focus your energy where it actually belongs, instead of wasting it on things you can't influence. Every day, you have a choice. You can start by focusing on what's broken, or you can start by noticing what's still in your hands. You can end the day replaying what went wrong, or you can reflect on what you handled well and what you can improve tomorrow. These small shifts might seem simple, but repeated daily, they rewire your entire mindset. Over time, gratitude becomes your default lens, and peace becomes your baseline. When you combine gratitude with inner peace, you become very difficult to disturb. You stop chasing outside approval because you already feel grounded. You stop reacting to every situation because you understand your energy has limits. You stop being controlled by circumstances because your stability comes from within. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you focused. You still act, you still improve, you still chase your goals, but you do it without chaos rattling around in your skull. This is the mental state you need to build, not temporary highs, not quick relief, but a stable internal foundation that supports your growth. Because when your mind is clear, your decisions get better. When your emotions are balanced, your actions get sharper. And when your inner world is at peace, nothing outside can throw you off course. Your character is your real identity, not what you claim, not what you project, but what you consistently do when nobody is looking. In a world obsessed with image and perception, most people spend more time managing their brand than building their actual self. They focus on looking disciplined instead of being disciplined, sounding confident instead of becoming competent, appearing successful instead of developing substance. But image is fragile, it depends on applause, and it collapses the second pressure gets applied. Character is different, it doesn't need approval, it's built through action, repetition, and integrity. And once it's built, it can't be taken from you. Character is formed in the small, invisible decisions you make every day. It's built when you keep your word, even when it's costly. When you do what's right, even when it hurts. When you stay honest, even when lying would be easier. These moments might seem tiny, but they pile up. Each one either strengthens your identity or chips away at it. Most people miss this because they're waiting for a big test to prove themselves. But your character isn't tested first in huge moments. It's shaped in small ones over and over. If you cut corners in private, you'll eventually crumble in public. If you compromise your standards when no one sees, you're training yourself to do the same when everything is on the line. The Stoics believed virtue is the highest good, not success, not money, not recognition. Because without virtue, everything else is unstable. You can achieve success without character, but you won't hold on to it. You can get attention without integrity, but it won't last. Character is what lets you stand your ground when things get brutal. It's what keeps you grounded when others are losing control. It's what gives you consistency when motivation disappears. Without it, you're easily influenced, easily distracted, and easily broken. One of the most critical parts of character is alignment. Alignment between what you believe, what you say, and what you do. Most people live misaligned. They say they value discipline, but they avoid discomfort. They say they want growth, but they choose convenience. They say they want success, but they lack follow-through. This misalignment creates internal conflict. It weakens your confidence because deep down you know you're not living by your own rules. But when you align your actions with your values, everything changes. Your confidence becomes real, not performed. Your decisions become clear, not confusing. And your identity becomes stable, not dependent on outside validation. Building character requires brutal honesty with yourself. Not the kind that makes you feel better, but the kind that shows you where you're falling short. It demands that you look at your habits, your behavior, your patterns, and ask, is this the person I want to be? And if the answer is no, you change it through action, because character isn't built by thinking about being better, it's built by acting better, consistently. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, honesty over convenience, responsibility over excuses, you're reinforcing the identity you want to create. Another key part of character is responsibility, taking full ownership of your life, your actions, and your outcomes. Most people avoid this because it's uncomfortable. It's easier to blame bad luck, other people, or the circumstances. But the moment you shift into full responsibility, you gain control. Because if it's your responsibility, it's within your power to change. This doesn't mean everything is your fault. It means everything is your responsibility to respond to. And that mindset kills helplessness. It puts you back in the driver's seat. Character also determines how you handle both success and failure. When you succeed, character keeps you humble. It stops arrogance, keeps you learning, and reminds you that growth never ends. When you fail, character keeps you moving. It stops you from quitting, helps you learn, and pushes you to improve. Without character, success can make you careless, and failure can make you give up. With character, both become fuel for your progress. At the end of your life, your character is your legacy. It's what remains when everything else fades. Your achievements might be forgotten. Your status might shift. Your circumstances might change. But who you are at your core, that stays. That's why building your character is the most important work you'll ever do. Not for recognition, not for applause, for yourself. Because when your identity is strong, you're not easily shaken. You don't need to constantly prove yourself. You don't need to chase validation. You simply act in alignment with who you've chosen to become. Character is what remains when the applause fades and the room empties. This is your identity system, the foundation that supports everything else. When your character is solid, your mind is clearer, your emotions are more controlled. Your discipline is stronger, your direction is sharper. Everything connects back to who you are. So build that identity on purpose, not through words, but through actions repeated every single day. Because in the end, you don't become what you wish for, you become what you practice.